name's Cody, and today we're going to show you our Guam Kingfisher chick. He's about 18 days old, and currently we're feeding him 4 times a day. Right now is one of his feeds. We figured everyone would like this. This guy is an endangered, critically endangered species. They're actually extinct in the wild. And feeding for until about 32 days, and then he'll go into one of our off and exhibit areas and hopefully support the population somewhere else at a later time. The reason why these guys are extinct in the wild is the island of Guam during World War II had brown tree snakes invade from the boats since carrying the soldiers when they went, and unfortunately the island of Guam did not, those birds and mammals didn't really have a good understanding of what tree snakes were, and so it devastated most of the bird population. And luckily zoos and aquarium were able to save some Guam kingfishers, and we've supported the population since about 1982. There are plans in the future, and hopefully the next 2 to 3 years, to introduce this species back to an island near Guam. And so we're pretty happy that we have a chick this year. And again, we usually have a few a year, and they're really fun, pretty vocal. When it gets older, we'll be able to tell if it's a male or a female by the coloration. Currently, we're unable to tell, but in about 6 to 8 months, we'll see what he is, or it is. And this is how a Guam Kingfisher tells you that he's full. They actually shake their head. So we're going to put him back in his home. He stays in here until we feed him, and then sooner, probably in the next few days, we'll actually put him in this box over here, which we call a fledgling box. And his next step after that will be an exhibit with all of his, with some other Guam Kingfishers that we have. Like most babies, the only thing he really does is eat and sleep even now. Growing all those feathers are super stressful, so most of his energy is for actually growing feathers, very similar to a newborn baby.
How many times a day does he eat?
Well, when he first hatches, we feed him 7 times a day. Right now we're at 4 times a day, and then as he gets older, we're just going to feed him less and less until he's self-feeding. And that's, again, about 35 days. And he'll start eating all by himself.
So what kinds of things do you feed a baby kingfisher?
Well, we feed them all kinds of fun stuff. They get crickets, they get waxworms, they get little pinkies, and the one thing that we feed a lot of is anoles. This is actually something the parents has been documented feeding in the wild when they were still in the wild. So we feed out a lot of anoles too. And so we try to give them a diversity of stuff. When he's real young, we actually cut everything up real small. But now that he's old enough to eat everything by just swallowing whole, we just give him the whole pinkies and the whole anoles.
Can you remind us how old he is?
He's 18 days old today.
So how quickly does he get in his feathers?
Well, he'll start growing feathers about 7 days. They're little bitty pin feathers. When he gets completely feathered, it's about 25 days.
Oh, so he's almost got all his feathers in.
Yep.
Where can people see these at Brookfield Zoo?
We do not have them on any of our exhibits. It's a population that Brookfield Zoo's been supporting for many, many years. And these guys are super shy, and we don't really have an exhibit that we would like to put them in at this time. but that doesn't stop us from supporting. Currently, we have a huge off facility just for Guam Kingfishers, and that's where we house about 18 of them. And then we have 3 breeding pairs in our breeding facility.
How come you're hand rearing this one?
We hand rear them because in the wild, they lay 2 eggs, and they only care for 1. And unfortunately, the chick for this one, one of the eggs wasn't fertile, and so this guy was the only one we've hand reared. But usually they only take care of 1 chick.
So how long would they stay with their parents?
Well, they're not the most. They only stay with their parents until they're able to be fed by their own, and then the parents will actually drive them off. So they don't stay with their parents for very long. Guam Kingfishers can be kind of aggressive to each other, and so the pairs do very well, but they don't keep their kids for very long before they drive them off. It's probably anywhere between 35 to 40 days, and then the parents would send them on their own.
Why is he shaking his head like that?
He shakes his head like that because just like us, it helps him digest. He's kind of loosening, moving it, and it's also super uncomfortable right now. He's kind of like a teenager. You know, he's not very comfortable in his feathers and his own body because all those feathers aren't completely feathered out yet. And so he's just trying to move himself around to get comfortable. But it's all about those are all what we call pin feathers, and they're not fully feathered yet. So he's just kind of uncomfortable right now. He'll shake around for probably another 10 days until he's feathered, and you don't really notice anything.
What kind of habitat do they live in the wild? Do they live in trees?
They do. These guys live in trees. It's pretty thick foresty area, and really it's hard to see them. They have territories, so there's not very, they don't hang out with each other, so each pair may have a territory, and it's pretty thick forests, and they usually don't hunt from the ground. They spend most of their time in the trees, and that's where they'll find anoles, crickets, little rodents and stuff, and that's what they'll eat.
How many institutions are participating in the Guam Kingfisher program?
That's a very good question. I know the population of the institutions have grown, but unfortunately I can't think of the number that are doing it right now.
Do you know how many have been released back into the wild?
None yet. Unfortunately, the whole goal for the program to release them is to build the population up, and that's the one thing zoos and aquariums have been doing for several years now, is breeding and getting as many as we can to help release. We don't. The idea is that we keep some here to continue to support the population and then release some in the wild, but we just haven't had the numbers. But luckily enough, with Brookfield Zoo holding the majority of the population, 25, it's helped a lot of institutions breed. So
one of the reasons you said that their populations have been decimated is because of the brown tree snake?
yes.
So the island that the program has its eyes on, I assume they don't have that problem?
Yes, they don't have the brown tree snake. And so it's an island that has shown to be able to support a population of Guam Kingfishers.
So can you remind us what the plan is for this guy then once he's completely feathered out and able to be on his own?
Usually the population is either being held to be released in the future or they get paired for breeding. His future is unknown at this time because he just hatched, but there's a group of people that decide the population. It's called the TAG, Taxonomic Advisory Group, and they will tell us exactly what to do with him when he's anywhere between a year to 2 years. So, thank you very much for being with us to feed the Guam Kingfishers. Today is Giving Tuesday, so if anyone feels like donating at Brookfield Zoo, it's czs.org. And everyone have a good day. Thank you.